Hi, I'm Chris Campbell. I'm in the wood turners, and I can't talk either. But I've been doing woodworking for about 15, 18 years, and but it's mostly been in miniature. And miniature is different than small. Small can be anything that is under your what would be comfort zone or something that looks tiny to you. This is small. I did this as a handle for this. It is not 1/12 scale. The apples and the pears have been turned on my lathe, and the bananas are Fimo, but they're all in scale to each other. And that's the most important thing when you're even doing small things, is to have everything in the same scale. Now, to demonstrate the difference between of things being in scale, this dish is 3 inches high and a little more than 3 inches across. If this was 1/12 scale, that would be the size right there. 3 inches is 1/4 of an inch in 1/12 scale. So the bowl itself is 1/4 of an inch high and a little more than 1/4 of an inch across, and the lid does come off. Now this is that candy dish I just showed you that was 1/12 of the bigger one. It looks too small for most people to think that it's in scale, but when you take it and put it in a scene of everything that is 1/12 scale, it's the proper perspective. This is my shop. It was really never intended to be a full shop. The men in my woodworkers club call it a large walk-in closet, which it's very close to that. But most of my tools were originally for miniature. This is a miniature router here. They all work on Dremel tools, so I have a lot of Dremels. This is your drill press. Obviously the sander has got a side one. The scroll saw, I had a miniature scroll saw, and somebody in the club was nice enough to give me a full-size one, and it works just as well. So now I use it, just put a smaller blade on it if I need it. This is a miniature table saw, and it's very effective, very straight. I can rip with it. And always comes out exactly straight so I can put things together properly. This is my lathe, and Dick Hoffman was sweet enough to make me one that didn't walk across the floor. So, and I've been able to organize all my tools for the first time. I have most of my smaller working tools on this side. I use, if anybody is old enough to remember when we used to do linoleum blocks, that's what these are. And they're very, very effective because they're just the right size. And then I have the mid-range tools. And on this side, oops, what did I catch on? Okay. This side and here, I have my full-size tools. When you're doing miniatures, you need smaller tools, obviously. I showed you some of the smaller ones I use, and they work fine for when you're working on the outside of your box or whatever you're making, your vase. When you're working on the inside, however, you need smaller tools. And this is what I use. They're curved ones, and a straight one for doing bottoms, and they're made of dowels and Allen wrenches. And I'm just going to show you very quickly how I do it. I take a dowel and I groove a hole on the router, the miniature router, a 1/16 of an inch hole, because this is the size Allen wrench I use. And you just put this in here, wedge a piece and glue a piece of wood in there, sand it down, and then cut and bend the tip to whatever type of tool that you want to make. Since most of my pieces of wood I use are small, and I really hate to waste wood, so what I've done is come up with, I have turned this, and as you can see there's a little dowel here in the middle. That's my centering piece. So I could take a flat piece of wood that you normally can't turn anything off of, center and put it on there and glue it, because I'm not going to go that far down in. And this piece we're going to use to make a plate. It's not very big, but for a miniature plate, it's perfect.
I try to use hardwoods whenever possible. Softwoods splinter and get hairy and are more difficult to work with. This piece is Purdue because I also try to use a wood that is the color and the grain size that is appropriate to the piece that I'm turning.
A pair of calipers are absolutely necessary. And this is 1.5 inches, so this piece finished right now would be like a tray 18 inches. And since I seem to have enough room here, I'm going to make it a little bit smaller, and I'm going to turn it into a shallow fruit bowl. Okay, we're going to make this a little bit smaller. Your standard bowl, fruit bowl, and that would not be any bigger. Like a salad bowl is 12 inches, so that's about what we're aiming at, is a little bit more than that. Okay, we're going to do the inside of the bowl now, and I basically use scrapers or round ones just because you don't need a lot of variety inside an open bowl. Normally, I wouldn't show you sanding, but sanding is one of the critical parts of turning miniatures, because it's so easy to go right through the sides or right through the top or anything. So your sanding has to be kept to a minimum in it, because if you do get a gouge, you're probably not going to get it out because you just don't have that much wood to work with. I'm not going to take it off right now because I normally will put a friction polish on that before I take it off. This is a piece of poplar heartwood, because that's going to be a wine bottle. Okay, we're going to turn a wine bottle now out of that scrap of wood I showed you, the poplar, the green poplar. When I'm working with these, I only use scrapers and parting tools.
You want to take off very small amounts at a time, and I'm working very close to the chuck. So I want to use a flat tool when I'm working that close so it doesn't catch it and ruin my tools.
Now a wine bottle is 3 inches across at the base, and the top, the neck, is only about an inch. So this is where you have to just go for illusion as to being it in proportion, because it's very difficult to get something down to, because you're talking about a 16th of an inch. You can't do that. A wine bottle is also 12 inches tall. So you mark, you know, that's where your bottom is going to be. I've set my calibers at 1/4 of an inch because that's 3 inches. You can see I have to come down a bit yet. Again, I'm measuring from previous. I know that the neck extends what is about 3/8 from the top. So I'm just marking that so I know where to start my curve. I'm going to take one of my little tiny tools and just put a very small little so I can put a cork in the wine bottle later.
Come on, I want to see you hollow that out.
If I can't put wine in it, I ain't hollowing it. I cut the end off saw rather than trying to turn it completely off. Just flies into Never Never Land. Okay, we need a wine glass for the bottle, so that's what we're going to turn now. The wine glasses are approximately 6 inches high, about 3 inches across, so the gauge I've already got set at 1/4 inches. Good for the top of it. And after I get it rounded, I'll mark the 6 inches. I make a standard Libby wine glass that you buy at the store. Okay. About 3 inches across, so my 1/4 scale is still good for this. And this is where my smaller ones come in, because now I got to get down inside and do that bulge part.
one of the things that I do when I'm sanding is make the rim, sand the edge thinner, so it gives the illusion that the entire glass or bowl is thinner than what it is.
So now while the whole piece is not that thin, it looks that thin. And now we'll finish the stem. When I'm finishing a delicate area like this stem, I use files. I have a variety of needle files so that I don't take off too much at once, and also it doesn't change the base or the top of the glass. Sandpaper will just spreads out too much to be able to keep the definition you need on a stem or a small area. Yep, no chips. And again, I would normally, with these, I finish them a variety of ways, but for today we'll just cut it off and I'll figure out how to finish it later. Okay. These are miniature rooms that I've done. I actually have a whole row of these shops, but these I did for specific reasons. This is a camera store. I pulled online a picture of a camera, figured out its dimensions, and constructed it according to those dimensions. All of the pictures in here and here are pictures of my husband's and my ancestors. That I had them on the computer, shrank them down, and the frames that they're in are charms that you get at like Joann's or something like that. This is an antique shop. Basically, I did this to take all of my odds and ends of things that I didn't know what to do with and put them in an antique shop, just like what you go in and find all this miscellaneous material in it. And I made this rug. This rug is needle pointed. It's 4 by 5 inches, and it has a little over 23,000 stitches in it. I do that with a magnifying glass, obviously. And these are all things that I was turning. These are some of the first things I turned on a little tiny micro miniature lathe, which got me into the big thing. But again, a salad bowl, it's about a foot across, just like a salad bowl would be. So if you measure what in real life you want and reduce it down 1 to 12. This is a cookie jar with cookies. So the wine glasses are probably the hardest thing, simply because they are stemmed. And you have to be very careful that you don't break the stems when you go. But the one nice thing about a miniature, if you blow it, doesn't take much to make another one.